Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's edition of Press Hour. Over 208,000 students who registered for the General Certificate of Education GCE 2026 session have 1 week to resume writing the examination. It follows the rescheduling by the Ministry of Secondary Education after discovering that there was widespread fraud. After 2 weeks of digging deeper into the fraudulent machinery or leakage gold mine, what measures will be taken against perpetrators, that is, those found guilty? What measures will be taken to ensure that those who are guilty are punished and that there will be no further leakage? How well will these measures work is as good as the intention behind them. No GCE for sale, no certificates for sale. Professor Nalova Lyonga, Minister of Secondary Education, might not have used these words, but her action sends across this message to those who want to banalize and sabotage the legacy, the heritage of a people, the heritage of a nation. She has literally become a moving train on your path. Step away or be crushed. I am Kilian Dandifon in Yaoundé, and this is Press Hour. The GCE leakage we have heard. What are the measures that will be taken to ensure that there are no further leakages? That is what we are going to discuss today on Press Hour. And to talk about this subject, we have invited 4 guests. We have 3 on the set. 1 is on his way coming, blocked in traffic. And permit me to introduce Imelda, Madam Imelda Kimbi, who is an educationist. Let me also introduce another lady, Bissell B. Mafo. She is the Secretary General for Training, also of the CTNP. You are welcome to Press Hour.
Thank you very much, Kilian.
Meet Professor Victor Barika. He is an IT specialist. He also is the president of the Board of Trustees of the ICT University. We are waiting for another guest. When he comes, we're going to introduce him to you to join the train of discussion. For now, I am going to invite Angela Mbong, who read the newspapers for Press Hour. Angela?
This week, the reopening of Parliament set the tone for discussions on reforms in national cohesion, alongside coverage of infrastructure projects and security incidents across the country. The Post newspaper reports that National Assembly Speaker Theodore Datu used the June 26 parliamentary session to call for reforms in the country's mining and land tenure sectors. The newspaper highlights concerns over long-standing opacity and inequities that continue to fuel frustration in mining communities, where resource extraction has brought little change to living conditions. Cameroon Tribune further notes that Senate President Aboubakari Abdullahi and National Assembly Speaker Theodore Datu called on lawmakers to promote peace, national unity, and social cohesion. The National Bilingual Daily also points to the upcoming budget orientation debate, which parliamentary leaders see as an opportunity to better defend the interests of the population. In the Northwest region, the National Anti-Corruption Commission has reviewed progress made in 2025 and streamlined its action plan for 2026 during a 3-day workshop in Bamenda. According to the Guardian Post, the initiative brought together civil society representatives and public administrators as part of efforts to strengthen anti-corruption action in the region. The launch of the 15th Government Action Fair, known as SAGO, also attracted media attention this week. Held from June 8 to 13 at the Yaoundé City Council Esplanade, the event ran under the theme State-Private Sector Partnership, Lever for an Emerging Cameroon. Cameroon Insider reports that the fair brought together public and private institutions showcasing their activities. In another development, Cameroon Insider indicates that President Paul Biya and First Lady Chantal Biya left Yaoundé for a private trip to Europe this Sunday, June 7, with the newspaper noting that the presidential couple was seen forth at the airport by Prime Minister Joseph Diongute and senior officials of the presidency. Still, Cameroon Insider announces that more than 2,300 positions have been opened in the public service. In its coverage, the Daily states that Public Service Minister Joseph Lee signed 36 orders launching competitive entrance examinations, direct recruitment opportunities, and special selection tests for young Cameroonians seeking employment in the public administration. On the development front, project in Yaoundé also received attention. Cameroon Tribune recounts the visit of the Deputy Director for Africa at the French Development Agency, Maurizio Cascioli, to infrastructure projects under the Yaoundé-Cœur de Ville program. After touring the Mvan site, the future bus station and other road projects, the newspaper reports that he expressed satisfaction with the progress of the works. From Yaoundé to Boya, the Southwest Regional Assembly has taken action against underperforming contractors, with the Herald Tribune highlighting the cancellation of 11 contracts and warnings issued to defaulting firms. The Sun newspaper carries the same story, noting that the revoked contracts had been awarded to non-performing firms. Still in the Southwest region, the Sun spotlights celebrations marking the first anniversary of the reign of Chief Albert Njiembonde of Bokwango. The media newspaper adds that the traditional ruler used the occasion to elevate retired military officer General Ngolo Ngumba to the dignity of notable. Security concerns also featured in the press this week. The Herald Tribune reports the killing of a student of the University of Bamenda in Tuba of Bamenda.
Thank you so much. Angela, we are just tuning in. This is Press Hour, and we are broadcasting live from Studio 4 of the CRTV Broadcasting Center here in Bala 2 in Yaoundé. And our topic of discussion, do you like conversation today on Press Hour, is the GCE. What are the steps that are being taken for there not to be further leakages as students resume writing in a week's time? Now, we're going to go back one step to talk about the gravity of the leakage that we had in the GCE this year, beginning with you, Madam Imelda Kimbi. You are an educationist, and you were on the field when it happened. Tell us.
Thank you, Killen, for giving me this opportunity to talk about the gravity of the leakage of the GCE examination for 2026. I think when we talk about gravity, it is really that serious. Yeah, like rightly said, I was in the field when it happened, as superintendent in one of the biggest centers in the central region. And, you know, we heard stories about how the GCE has leaked, this paper has leaked. Some of them leaked to the extent of even the marking guides leaking. And so we think that the minister's decision was timely because the authorities of the board were aware and over the news ahead that they accepted that the exams actually leaked. And that is why the minister had to suspend the writing of the GCE for 2 weeks so that investigations should be carried out. And I think that 2 weeks is not small time, and that within the 2 weeks, proper investigations will be done. And the authorities in charge of investigations in this country, we know I'm not a legal personnel, but I know that the investigations are ongoing, and the people, the culprits, will be brought to book. And that alone is enough to call all of us guilty or unguilty, because all of us might be guilty until you are proven innocent. Yes, especially those of us teachers, exam officials. So we expect that within these 2 weeks, investigation results will bring out, not just like the open investigation in this country, and it became open-ended. So we hope that by the time these 2 weeks elapse, we are going to have results of the investigations, and the culprits will be called to book, and that others will learn their lesson.
Yes, I should be a deterrent to any person who wants to think about it.
Exactly.
You know, we just said in our introduction that the minister, while representing the ministry, has become a moving train on the path of those who want to fraud. So if you want to be crossed, you can stay on that path. You'll be sure that she's going to cross you, to crush you. What I like also about what you've said is when you pointed out that all the teachers or everybody in the chain is guilty until proven innocent. Well, that is not the spirit of the common law, but in this case, I think that we have to take that. We are in a country where we have two judicial systems, but this one could be applied in this case. And you know, when the police goes out for a raid, they pick everyone until you show your ID card, you prove that you are a morally upright citizen. Then they will let you go. I am going to call on the journalist, Bissell B. Mafo. As a journalist, how did you of the press look at this fraud? I know much has been reported, but we want to hear from you now as a journalist, a media practitioner. How did this hit you?
Thank you very much, Killian. And it's a great opportunity to be here today to talk about something that it pains me very much because it's not been long I wrote the GCE, even if it's 10, 11, 12 years ago. And I asked myself the question, if this exam was suspended when I was writing, how would I have felt? Now, as a journalist, our role is to report the things that we have seen and heard the way we have seen them. We are not out to analyze, to point fingers and blame whoever we think is responsible or is guilty. But the thing is, it is deeply rooted more than it meets the eye. Just like Madam Imelda said, most of us are guilty in one way or the other. Let me take from the home. Parents are putting pressure on their kids. You need to pass. You have to. Those who are ahead of you, your classmates, they don't have two heads, so you have to. And in their minds, they're like, okay, I know I can do it, but I don't want to fail my parents. So any means that I have to make it, I am going to go for it.
That would be a bad student. I think that message from a parent, I am one, is not bad. It's pushing you to study,
Yes,
not to fraud.
but the thing is, we put them that pressure and we don't guide them how to go about it.
Okay.
And unfortunately, not all students or not all children have the right guidance and right orientation on how to go about obtaining success. And now, I'm following from what Madam Imelda said. Let's go to the teachers. Most of the extra classes we have after school are done by the teachers of the same schools. I have younger ones who are writing as well, and I am speaking firsthand how it affected them. And when they came to the house that, okay, we need to do extra classes, the first thing I asked, who are those who are teaching you? They said they're teachers from their school, but the classes are taking place in a different campus. And I asked, so why is it that these teachers who are doing the extra classes cannot teach these things in class? What is the problem? We see that there is already a gap somewhere that we need to address before we get to that point. And then from the reports we saw online, we noticed that most of these leakages happened in WhatsApp groups and in these tutorial groups. That is where something went wrong. But the first question is, how did they have access to it?
Okay, the investigation is going to help us to...
That is what we are hoping to
yes,
achieve.
I think I'm very optimistic.
It is very bad. It is terrible because we are looking at, it is going to be heavy on everybody. Be it the GCE board, be it the ministry, be it the parents, the students. People had made plans. They knew that by this time, they are going to be done with exams and they're probably going to be doing this or that. Parents had made plans. Universities had made plans. And one of the things I asked myself, now that the exams have been postponed by 2 weeks, when is it going to be marked? When will the results be released? I went to a boarding school. When will they start August? Because my school had that, for example. When will university admissions going to start? And the cost of sending back the papers across the national territory. That is another thing, because everybody was just, oh, why did the minister do this? We are not also looking at the financial cost it is going to put on the board. They have to send back across the national territory. On
now,
that Monday, we had people,
integrity?
students who were not aware that the exam was postponed.
That is one. Will we prefer integrity for the cost you are talking about? Let us forget about cost and let the exam leak, or we don't care about the cost and maintain the integrity of the exam.
The integrity first.
Voila. So we can. No, that's what I wanted to know from you. Professor Victor Mbareka, you are the president of the board of trustees. You are the proprietor. Let me just ask you this question first. What will you do if you heard that in one of your institutions the examination questions leaked to almost all the students?
Well, first of all, I want to really say, I know we are panicking a lot about this whole idea of examination leaks. And it's an opportunity for many people to speak badly about our country, that nothing works, and so on. These are things that happen almost every year in different countries around the world, including Nigeria, the JAM. It happens there. Last year, it happened in Bangladesh, where people were locked up for examination leaks. So it happens, okay? So I love what the two ladies on the panel are saying. We should really look forward to that investigation, and I think we're going to find some surprise people featured that caused this. Now, at ICT University, we are very, very strict in terms of examination leakages or cheating in exams. Every semester, we have a disciplinary board. And not only is the student punished, but they get to even get suspended or dismissed in some cases for any sort of examination malpractice. Students working on their thesis, we put them through an online plagiarism test, which you must, any type of things you plagiarize, we catch it. And it's very, very strong disciplinary measures, because in academia, the sin of cheating, like the Bible says, is the only unforgivable sin in academia. So I am happy that even though this was negative for our country, the minister, my academic colleague, Professor Nalova Lyonga, took a decisive measure to cancel it. Some people are not happy with her decision. I think it's the right decision. It was decisive, and knowing who she is, she doesn't care if you complain about that. And so it was good, similarly to what we do at our institution. And of course, any lecturer at a university that does that is you lose your job.
Now, you've been talking about her. The three of you have talked about the Minister of Secondary Education, Professor Nalova Lyonga, who also granted a press briefing openly. She will certainly be communicating again before the resumption, but we picked some of the things that she said during her last communication after the fraud, and she is saying that there is evidence that the GCE leaked, and that's why she rescheduled it. Let us get this excerpt of her declaration.
I'm happy because we all know how crucial the GCE is for us, for all of us English speakers who have come through the English speaking tradition. That's the only exam that we have known for years. I sat for the GCE level under the British, and so did so many of you. And I'm sure you are all familiar with the kind of standards that we had as far as this exam is concerned. So, when you have an exam which is all over in the hands of the candidates before the exam is written, that is before time, I can ask you, how would you feel? How would you feel about that? We know what an exam is. Are you supposed to have the questions of an exam before the exam is written? Would you be surprised if you know that everybody who was supposed to sit for the exam has the questions, knows about the questions, has the answers, and even 2 days before the exam, even 1 week before the exam, definitely you'll be very upset. There are many of us who are upset. When they called me, I said, just tell me when the next exam is. And I went there, and lo and behold, that's what I saw. So when you have evidence, the evidence is there. You have the telephone, you have the person, you have the exams, the hard copy and the soft copy. I have to take a decision. And so I talked to the people who were supervising at that point, and even they were shocked, too shocked to even speak about it. If you have to organize an exam where everybody knows the question, tell me, what kind of exam is that you're examining? What is that? Don't you look stupid? I mean, would you say that you would cover it up and wait until the exam is finished? What are you going to change? So I had to take my decision after consulting with everyone concerned, both those who are above me and those who are below me, and the people who are involved themselves directly. I'm a product of GCE British style, and many of us are. Do we want to say that once the British handed over the GCE to us, we could not organize GCE? Are we giving credibility to that kind of opinion?
What do you say? Are we giving credibility to that?
We cannot give credibility to that kind of system. We cannot, we should not, and we should never. We should never.
That we have come of age, we are independent, we should assume our responsibilities, and those who want to either banalize or sabotage it, the people should bear the consequences.
Exactly.
There are some very pertinent things that the minister said that we just want to, in 2 minutes, talk about. Professor Victor Mbarika.
Oh, absolutely. I don't even see where the argument is. These exams had to be cancelled. Anybody with the least brain would know that these exams could not go on, because you go on with it, and then at the end, what do you do? How do you punish the students that were involved? How do you punish the teachers that were involved? It was the right decision, but one thing she said that gets me excited as a Pan-Africanist: this is a decisive decision that shows we can run our affairs. We don't need the British to run it for us. We are doing it and doing it right.
Biselbi?
I'm happy that the minister highlighted the fact that we need to uphold the integrity of the examination that made most of us. And we need to uphold it such that the generations that will come after us will know that they have something to hold on to, just like we did.
Now, let us, you are, I call it the man, sorry, I respect women so much, of the field. Tell us what the methods that were used by these students. Well, I'm saying students because the exam, the leakage was found in their hands.
Yes.
So what were the methods that were used?
Before going to the methods that were used by students, I would first of all like to come back to what Mafo said there about parents encouraging students, their children to learn, to study. All of us do that. Any responsible parent will encourage the child to study and not to cheat. Yes, I get up personally, I wake them up to read and to study and all of that. I help them when it is possible. But some parents go to the extent of encouraging children to cheat by going to look for examination questions to buy, in quotes. If they are selling examination questions, like we said, no examination for sale, no certificates for sale. But it seems as if that is what is happening in our country today. Because the students, yeah, they have their gadgets. We caught one in my center the other time, a smartphone. It was right in our private. We had to search her and remove it. And I was not on the scene at present. But when I came, I had to do my investigations in order to cause the child to acknowledge that. So when I was cajoling her, I said, hey, madam, so they give it back. I said, well, it's the discretion of the GC board decide to give back their smartphone or smartwatch or whatever. So how do they get it? It is from a particular source. I was watching a program today on social media where somebody was talking, they are quoting some names, Egbe or whatever, that they're the ones, the super profs, they give questions. They sell a paper for between 2 to 10,000 francs. And students buy. So these students have these things in their gadgets, they have them in their smartwatches, in their phones, and some teachers too. I could put them teachers in quotes because I don't think that a teacher worthy of the name teacher should be involved in examination malpractice, in selling examination questions or selling marks or selling certificates. You have to go to that extent. A teacher is somebody, teaching is a noble profession. I would expect that for somebody to be a teacher worthy of that name should be somebody who can keep up to expectation, who can be somebody.
And you know what the law says in, I think, every case.
Yes.
When you are the gatekeeper,
Yes.
when you are the watchdog of any particular thing,
Yes.
and you are caught doing the contrary, your punishment is multiplied.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe even by doubled or multiplied by a certain number. So we mean that the gravity of your punishment. So our suggestion is that if teachers are caught having been in the chain of this fraud, their punishment should be draconian. Should not just be like a student probably who was the soft target and the rest. We're going to welcome Mr. Njosio Dennis, who is the national president of the Cameroon Anglo-Saxon School Principals, CASPA. We appreciate that you have braved the traffic and you've come here. We know the cycling tour ends today in Cameroon, and then it's the central town that is the epicenter of the event. So traffic in that area is blocked. That's why you come in at this time. But we appreciate that you are here all the same, Dennis. You're welcome.
Thank you, my brother. It's not been easy trekking from Education to Lomkak for coming here. The blockage of the roads.
Yes, thank God you've been doing some sports. That's why you, this time, catch up. Now, we just want you to give your reading of the massive fraud that we had in the GCE. That's what we've been talking about. You are a principal in a private school. You are not just a principal, you are the national president of the Cameroon Anglo-Saxon School Principals. We mean that you have that authority over all other principals. When you heard that the GCE leaked, how distant, how close were you to that leakage, and what are your interpretations of what happened?
Thank you for that question, my brother. As you've said, I'm Mr. Dennis Njosio. I'm an old-time teacher for chemistry for 25 years today. Also, I've been an examiner. So it tells you that if somebody of my level gets things about exam leakages, I can cry from dawn to dusk. If these people who are engaged in such actions know what it takes to prepare exams, from the setting of the exams, through the moderation, through the printing, parceling and distribution, practicals, writing and correction, they will not tamper with those exams. It's a whole process. If they think of teachers who burn midnight candles for 9 months preparing candidates, they will not tamper with our exams. I know that we have people who are not patriotic in their country. Even as their country, they hate their country. But you don't take those things to touch the exams of these younger ones coming up. What are children's exams doing on social media? What have the kids done to us? We should not take these exams of children and place where they are not supposed to be. When I heard about leakage of exams of our magnitude, I was disturbed. But I must thank our minister. I must also thank the head of the transition team of the board. They sat together as a good, as a partner and saw what to do with the exams. I must say they are doing a great job. It's my first time seeing the ministry so close to the board, and that with their closeness, their covalency is paving out things for the exams in Cameroon. I am saying so because as an old-time principal, I'm presently principal of Birla High School in Rongpo in Damas. I know what children take to prepare for these exams, my brother. And that parents do suffer for the exams to pay the kids for the exams. They pay fees, register exams, and at the end of the day...
And maybe that's what pushes them to go buy examination questions, to give them, because they pay so much, to let the children cross the bridge.
Now, what do you mean by exam questions? It's something we should not even talk about. To who you buy the question from who, and why buy exam questions? Is there a market for exam questions? The answer is no.
No, but this one was done. We cannot even be imagining. This is something that was done.
That's true.
It's acknowledged at the highest level
That is
of the educational system.
That is why we are giving our minister and the head of the transition team on the board the largesse to crack down the perpetrators of this act and let them be severely punished. I think if they get such people and they are well punished, it will deter others from taking such actions. Because we are not supposed to temper the exams of our children, because if the exams are sold to students, they write and they pass, what of the certificates they're going to obtain in the future?
Now, section 163 of the Penal Code of Cameroon outlines that cheating in examination has a punishment of from 25,000 CFA francs, depending on the gravity of the cheating, to 2 million. And a prison term of about, I can't get that, but up to 3 years. Which means that since the minister said the evidence is in the hands of the police, we expect that there will be administrative sanctions first that the ministry will take, but there will also be penal judicial sanctions, as you all said, all of you on the set, and people out there waiting to see this happen. It should not take, as Mrs. Imelda said, the investigation should not be open-ended. I think I'm using your words in a way that we don't know what happens afterwards. Now, at this moment, we are going to enter into what happens for there not to be any further leakage. Let us look at the minister who has been championing digitalization in every aspect of the educational system in Cameroon. She is very angry that this is happening in the GCE board. We'll watch her, then we'll come back to look at what should be done for there not to be leakage, any leakage, in the exam that resumes in 1 week's time.
We cannot discuss much on this issue now. The evidence is with the police. The police will do their job. These exams are between GCE board, Minisec, and the supervisor. They are the ones doing the job. For a ministry that is leading in digitalization, to be having a board which is not digitalized enough, I don't accept it. We have to digitalize and make things right, clear. As I say, put everything on the board.
Okay, digitalization. She has digitalized the payment of school fees, well, PTA fees, if you like, to talk about that.
School fees.
School fees.
Yes. Registration fees.
She has digitalized.
The GCE, for example.
The GCE, for example. You have your resource digital.
The registration.
The registration itself is digitalized. Once the click on the computer goes, results are released. Every student in their bedroom gets their results at the same time. There is also the unique identifier. Every candidate student in class or in an examination has a number that no other has.
Yeah.
And then this is digitalization beating the system again at one point. Let us get the IT specialist who is here with us to tell us how digitalization can stop further leakage in the exam that is resuming 1 week away from now.
Thank you, Killian. I will talk along two lines, a short-term solution and what I believe could be a more long-term solution. First of all, I understand it's come to my attention that the GCE board does not even own its own printing press. I don't know how true that is. So they have to print outside of that, and that in itself. So you see, digitalization does not work on its own. There must be measures taken, just basic human intelligence, to be able to make sure we avoid certain things. That's why we say, let's deal with human stupidity before we start dealing with artificial intelligence. So if there is a printing press doing this, First of all, there should be even webcams watching what is going on by someone from the GCE board or wherever. There must be some measures, not just saying, oh, we have some police around there. There are things people can do. There can be ways to monitor. So for the short term, there must be some ways to monitor the analog way we are doing it now. But I am saying we must move long term into computer-based testing. Many African countries are already doing it for their national exams. I'm not talking about America. I'm talking about several African countries. ICT University developed a system in Nigeria, not here, in Nigeria, which we have implemented in some schools, which we call P-exam. You encrypt the exam. Encryption is like you hide the realities of what it is. You hide the actual questions. Teachers develop, say, if a paper is to have 10 questions, they develop 200 questions, all encrypted. All these centers have computers in them. Students take their exams there on the computers, and it is decrypted. In other words, the encrypted information is then released just minutes before they start writing, all over the country, all at the same time. It can work. We are already doing this as a university in Nigeria. We are not waiting for a long time. I can say we may need for Cameroon maybe another 3 to 4 years for full implementation. But this system I'm talking about here can be demonstrated even as early as tomorrow, if anyone wants to see it. So another thing which is used during this is the power of AI. So all these computers in these labs, where that in the exam they have cameras, AI-enabled cameras. The good thing, our Minister of Secondary Education has already done the basic work, already taking students, getting student unique identifiers and so on. These AI-enabled cameras can identify your eyes. So somebody else cannot come and sit for the exam for you. No two persons in the world have the same eyes. No, not even identical twins. That is how great God is. Not even identical twins. So you can identify. If you move away, your exam stops. So if you need to use the bathroom, you use it before you start your exam, etc. Then the other thing that this system comes with is what we call a lock browser. Lock browser, you know, like if they're on a computer, you would think they can switch and look at. Lock browser locks your screen. You cannot move. You cannot switch your screen. You cannot do anything. Also, those cameras come to identify any electronics you have on your body, including if you have a heart monitor. These are things that are not expensive anymore like they used to be. And I know when I talk about this, some of my critics will say, what happens to the rural areas where my grandmother does not have even a phone? If your grandmother is taking the A-level, you have more serious family problems than the A-level leak. Okay? So these are things that can be done with planning from the immediate. We cannot say because the rural areas are this and that, we can't plan to move as the world, as the rest of other parts of Africa is moving.
But
we can start now.
Planning to move, actually, to be sure, takes time. I think those who say that the rural areas has a problem actually think that is real. When you go to those areas, you know the challenges are real in Cameroon.
I just spoke with the phone of Zangtabi, my phone, this morning, from Zangtabi, a very remote village in Metaland. There is network.
He's in the palace.
No, he came down to the church, the school area. In fact, interestingly, he walked down to the school where the school is, where the school and the church in Zangtabi is, to make the phone call. Yeah. And it works. Cameroon is covered digitally. Let's forget this old thing that, we are still behind.
Prof, this is what you are saying.
It's an excuse for us not to move forward.
Prof Victor, this is what you are saying. That in Zangtabi,
yes,
there's no network and the palace. There's just one space, one position somewhere where the phone moved to before talking with you.
Yes, and where the school is.
It means, no, there are many schools. There are many schools.
Yes.
There's just one school. We're not sure that other schools have are strategically placed.
And that is why I'm saying that it may not be immediate.
Okay.
These are things that can be set up for the next 3 years to 5 years. That's why I call it a long-term solution. But the infrastructure building needs to start now. And guess what? We have technology specialists that can do that. Our young graduates here, they can handle it. They develop this software. It's not me as the president of the university. These are students develop software used in schools in Nigeria today. I'm not talking about stuff that will be used in the future. Even today, we have students at ICT University in UK, in US, in different parts of the world. They take their exams online. They use locked browsers. They cannot cheat. In fact, it is an even more effective way than even a human proctoring. You don't even need a human proctoring.
Yes, and then again, I stay with you. What you are saying is really serious, and we like the way you're putting it. But we identify, we're talking about national exam.
Yes.
And then you are proposing a solution. Such solutions, they are like a vaccine that takes time for people to test 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and make sure that it's protected, is good for the system before we can use that.
You are speaking like an IT professor, and you are correct. Every system must be tested over time. It was on this your panel that I came attacking people when the new e-visa started in Cameroon, and it had problems in the first month. And everybody was saying, oh, Cameroon cannot do e-visa. But now nobody's saying anything because it's working well. Because the system is tested over and over, and then at a certain point, it takes balance. But to say I will not start because there may be problems,
no, we should start.
We should start somewhere. We can start by just regular exams within the schools, within the semester, and it will work. We have smart boards installed by the government right now in some schools.
Now, digitally, let us leave the broader spectrum and come to the GCE that is starting on Monday, I think Monday the 22nd of June. So what digital methods, measures should be used for this exam not to leak anymore?
Yes, these are the first things I already mentioned in the first part of my talk. If you are giving out these papers to be printed at an independent, a private press, the government should have some involvement in installing webcams, which are not expensive, in this all over this place. There should be a way to examine people that are going in and out of the place and block it for that period of printing. Let's remember, no matter what measures are taken, if human beings are involved in something, there's still a possibility that there could be a leak. But at the very least, we can try, like the use of these simple technologies, to monitor the movement of those papers.
Dennis, those are digital measures that could be used. What other measures should be taken for there not to be any leakage in the exam that is going to be run from next week, the GCE? Like you said, like the minister said, like all of us are saying, Madam Melda said, that is the one heritage, the one legacy that we have. What other measures should be used so that next week, 22nd of June, we should not have a similar story?
Thank you, Killian, for that question. I have heard much from the IT specialists, which is the same things are going to happen, but time will tell us. But so next week, beginning exams on the 22nd of this week, from Monday, we have some measures we must put in place to make sure we don't have these mishaps again. I think the board already knows they're able to send to areas where these problems occur, and the personnel that were around such areas. I'll just plead that the board with the ministry, they intensify surveillance at level of the catchment centers for schools that take exams from catchment centers, and for schools that have exams in their safes in schools, they should make sure that the camera system just are intensified to see who goes to the safe at what time and comes out of the safe at what time. And again, I will also insist that we should also be careful with the use of phones, even on in the centers, and even by chief of centers and superintendents. Sometimes we should also be able to control where their phones are being used, and the kids to themselves and the students, the candidates themselves, and those doing invigilation. There should be strictness on the invigilators and the candidates themselves. They should not allow phones on campus. I mean, it's possible to keep the phones in their houses, and then they collect the phones after the sessions of the examinations.
Now, you painted a very good image of how responsible we should be, of the integrity you are made of where such fraud should not take place. But there's an official from the Ministry of Secondary Education who came to this set and made a very, very serious statement that we're going to go into it again. It said that in some private schools, especially with the 100% syndrome, instead of supervising, invigilating the students, the officials of some of these schools invigilate the invigilators and then the superintendents. In other words, they make sure that they keep them away from students and allow students to fraud.
That is true, Mr. Killian. Just to remind you, yesterday was Saturday. We spent almost 6 hours at the liaison office here in Yaoundé looking at some of those problems with some centers. To be honest with you, most of these private schools have taken education into a business, which is too bad. As you said, the 100% syndrome to get more students next year is the problem. And I've insisted time without number that the board should be very careful with those schools and have their centers removed and pushed to government schools where you are able to control them easily. So I think that the board should go back to that system. If a private school is able to take exams and mismanage the exams, remove the centers and send to public areas where it is easily monitored. You know, private schools, teachers of private schools, they don't have matrix with the government. Proprietors are business people, so they don't care what happens to student exams. But if somebody
let us say some of them don't care. I know
them, yes.
I know some people of integrity in private schools.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Some of them, they don't have matricles, and some are business people. And then, so if somebody is a superintendent in the school, it's not a civil servant, he has no matricule. So he cares less taking money from a proprietor to make exams.
Probably he may care, but he's taking that with tears. Well, to let certain things go, which we all condemn, that is right.
Yes.
So the suggestion here is, you talk about catchment centers, so many people don't understand what is catchment centers. So what about the catchment centers where the hubs where the examinations were stored and distributed?
Yes.
Yeah, let us get it from you because you understand that better than us.
Yeah, because of exam malpractices for the past 3-4 years now, the board created catchment centers, which means, for example, schools that have to write exams in a particular area, their questions are kept in one center in a school, probably government school. They go in the morning and collect scripts for the morning, go and write, go and give the scripts back and get scripts for the afternoon, which means they don't keep scripts in their school, in their centers. Those are catchment centers. So the board will intensify surveillance at the level of catchment centers and movement of scripts from catchment centers to centers and back to catchment center. It will really help us now cut down the problem from Monday.
That is one of the solutions, yes. What are other measures that should be taken for us not to hear another story?
Killian, I think that this is a clarion call for the authorities of the GC board first, because it is from them the exams come. Yes, teachers, I'm a teacher, I'm an examiner, I'm an assistant chief examiner for ordinary level French. I set questions, but when you set questions, you don't know which question, whether a question first of all will be selected, and if ever it is selected, when it will ever come. So I think that the origin of this thing is from the board, because when you see questions flying all over social media, some of them with marking guides, where are those coming from? Are they coming from teachers? Would I send my question and take and start sharing to people that this question will come for French O level, A level, and all of that? I think
well, the board may, well, I can't say it's the board is not, well, until we have the results of the investigation.
Yes.
The board does not have a printing press. That's what we're talking about. That's the next thing we're going to talk about.
I was not
what
true.
if the board thought that the exams were protected, but some unscrupulous person in a printing press, for example, even not from the printing press, but between the printing press and
transportation and all of that. So that is why I want to say that the board is the sole responsibility of the board. The minister in charge of education generally. The GC board is responsible for handling questions and whatever has to do with examinations with care. If it is at the printing press, who prints the exams? Is it the teachers or the board?
Obviously the board. I should
okay, if it is a board printing questions, and the board has a transition management team, or the board has a head, who is supposed to follow up? That is, it is not today they started printing questions in this country. I know, I quoted, if you followed Twilight the other day, I quoted Mr. Misoji Justus. He is a retired worker from the GC board. He lives at Sandpit in Buea. They are still alive. Azan Wara is alive. Some maybe exams used to leak, but not as frequent as it happens these days. Mr. Misodi was telling us how he used to be the one responsible for printing GC questions, and he will not step out of that hall for the length of time they were printing. Because if exams leak, he will either be the one or the person printing.
Now,
so now it is who knows who or who does what. You take little children and keep in places where they cannot, you shout, they'll run. I think that there are people of integrity in the society that we know that can handle these things. You have classmates, you have friends, you have people that you know that this person like this, it is over his dead body that he will steal money from the meeting.
Okay.
or that you release exams.
That is correct.
Yes.
Now, if I were to summarize what you have said, is that the GCE board should have its own printing press.
Exactly.
Should not go out of its premises to print exam.
Because there's no reason why they should not have a printing press up till now. No reason, absolutely no reason.
We don't know how much.
And even with that,
press.
even at that, no, we cannot be joking over examination issues.
What is a
I think
printing press?
we cannot be joking over examination issues.
There are cheaper solutions now,
Yes, we
Killian.
cannot be
I
joking
don't
about
think it's
examination
that
issues.
out of range to get a printing press. I'm a printer by birth all my life, so it's not as expensive as it used to be. There are really cheap solutions and quality solutions to developing a printing press, and I think the GCE board should have the money for that.
I don't know whether it works. There's one newspaper, not a big one,
Yes,
that has a printing press.
What does it take?
several newspapers by the way.
No, I know. I'm talking about one that you would think that is not a big newspaper. Municipal updates.
Yes.
Has a printing press. We are not talking about the Guardian Post.
Yes.
The Guardian Post has a printing press. That's a newspaper private that prints for so many other newspapers. And it facilitates things for them. We are quoting examples because these are examples that work.
That's it.
A government institution should not lack a printing press
That is it.
in 24 hours if they've decided to do that. I
Yes.
think that's what should happen.
Yes, that's
So,
the priority project.
BCLB, MAFO, let us look at this printing press if it were to be one of the solutions. And the GCE papers for the rest of the exam were to be reprinted or maybe taken from the stock, the bank that is there. The printing press should be bought in the next 24 hours, or it should have been bought.
If we want to be practical, let's just assume that maybe obtaining the printing press within this time, maybe, we need to disburse budgets and all of that. But now we are looking for a fast solution to ensure that in 1 week's time, these children are going to write and we are going to uphold the integrity of the exams they're going to write. And I totally agree with what most of us have said. We need to first of all ensure the integrity of the people we are putting in charge. And just like Madam Imelda said, there are people we know that this one, amongst us, this person is not trustworthy. Now we need to ensure that from where they have selected, because they used to tell us setting A, B, C, the setting that they have chosen, from when it leaves Boya to whatever means they are sending it should be as secured as possible. And ensuring that even when it's reaching the rural villages, because in my village, for example, I don't know how practical it is going to be even in the next 5 years to have a very digital GCE. If we want to be honest with ourselves, it is going to take time, but it's possible. But for now, what we need to hold on to is the integrity. And the leakage does not happen in the hall, it happens before. And one of the hypotheses I got was that it is during transportation, because I spoke to some students and they said it's not as if they sleep with those papers, they show them 30 minutes before the exams.
No, some of them had the
before,
papers,
but most of
48
them,
hours before.
Most of them, it is few minutes or few hours before they get into the hall, and then they just, because one of the problems they have is the interpretation of the question. And so what came to mind is it is during transportation from the catchment centers, like the site, to the hall. And it takes, this is the digital era, it just takes a click on the phone, you snap it, and you send it. And they have forums, like we said. They have forums where if you send it, if I take a picture now and I send it to one of our global forums, it's a matter of seconds for the whole world to have it. And it will not matter if the person is in Furawa, the person is in which village, it doesn't matter. And if they have already agreed and they have put in place their systems to get it, they just need 1 or 2 persons. It will not happen in town, let's be honest. It will be difficult for you to really trick those papers in town, because I remember when I was writing, when the superintendent or the chief of center comes, he opens the paper, he shows us the papers all sealed, and then he tests it in front of us. But in those villages, who stays there to supervise?
No, in town it will happen, please.
Who
Let us
stays
come back
there
to that.
to ensure? So one of
the catchment centers Dennis was talking about are more in town than in the village.
The students also, we need to also speak to the students. They should also know that, imagine that they are in these forums and they don't want to, because they know how important this exam is to them. it starts also from the mindset.
No, that, by knowing how important the exam is, they want to pass, especially when they have not studied. So they will go for the questions. They will go for the
And the teachers as well.
And
We need to know
let me
the
just say
motive of
something.
those who are doing
I don't
it.
know how this information comes. Like, I'm just learning from her that it is 30 minutes to the exams. And so why would I, a teacher, open exams between the catchment center? Let me say GBHS Yaoundé is a catchment center. I'm collecting scripts from there to EHS Yaoundé, for example. And to Tang. From there, I open papers and snap and send to students.
Of no use, right?
Of no use.
Because at that time they're checking the students in. The students have no...
That is it. And that's why this year, no student enters the hall after 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, they ring the bell and it's starting time. I'm superintendent, this is one of the centers here. We lock the gates. Because we used to say, for a 1 hour, 30 minutes question paper, students can come 15 minutes later, and for a 2 hours, 3 hours question paper, students come 30 minutes after. And within that period, they were doing things and answering and bringing pre-answered questions too. And I think that all of us have things as a responsibility, all of us teachers and parents alike. We should tell our students to study. Because the time you even confuse yourself, they're looking for leaked exams and all of that. You can't imagine you caught a student who is rewriting only biology ordinary level. It means that he's either in lowest or upper seed. A science student rewriting biology, and you bring a piece of paper like this that you can copy the notes into 4 ledgers. So the time you take, can't you read and understand?
That is it. Your last word,
They're looking
Dennis.
for the easiest way out.
Should we name and shame those who will be identified as fraudsters in the exam? Please, you have 45 seconds.
Not really name and shame, they should be totally condemned. It's against the law.
Very good.
Yes, it's against the law, they should be condemned.
Administrative and penal sanctions should
be meted on them.
Bissell, tell us.
I agree with him. They should be named, shamed, and they should be punished such that, and given severe punishment, such that those who even nurse the thoughts, when they think about the punishment that those who did it before them received, they will think twice before they even think of engaging in such an activity.
Professor Victor?
Well, I'm not a secondary school specialist. I'm a university professor. I will come back to, name, shame them, but I still insist we must start thinking long-term about digitizing these exams, creating each huge question banks, such that several centers get different questions for the same exam. That is what I truly believe in, and I think we will make it happen in Cameroon.
Your chain is a map of Africa?
Yes, I love Africa.
What about the red feather you have?
No, my red feather was given to me. I have 7 chieftaincies, 4 in Nigeria, 3 in Cameroon, and I'm proud of them. More proud than my title of professor.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Just one last word.
I will give you the last word. Yes, go ahead.
I just wish to plead on the minister and the board to insist that from tomorrow, that is the last week before exam begin on the 22nd, they should insist that no school holds nothing like revision classes in their campuses. They should not assemble anywhere for revision classes.
Okay.
Whether in school, they should not assemble anywhere.
Yes, let the centers become sacred areas for everyone, except you are authorized.
That's true.
Thank you so much. Between today and the beginning of the exam, ladies and gentlemen, dear students, the GCE is resuming on the 22nd of June, not before, not after the program of last week. Some people called me because the communique of the minister was tricked and scammed, and people called me. The GCE is resuming on the 22nd of June, same timetable you are reminding me. And between today and that day, we're going to meet the minister and plead with her to communicate with you. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Express R, it's for you. That's why we are here. Thanks for watching.